Good evening. This is your evening briefing for Saturday, the 18th of April, 2026. Today's briefing spans rising conflict and economic pressure overseas, alongside police, health, and security developments in Australia. Leading the briefing, the UN's humanitarian chief is warning that escalating conflict in South Sudan is driving mass displacement and raising the risk of famine. Tom Fletcher says 2 out of every 3 people need humanitarian assistance this year, while the UN's $1.46 billion aid plan is only 22% funded. Also in the briefing, police say 2 people were arrested after reports of 2 public shootings and a pursuit in Sydney's southwest. Officers later found a black SUV abandoned in Smithfield, seized a firearm, and say no injuries were reported. Meanwhile, New South Wales Health has issued a measles alert for Sydney and northern Sydney after a confirmed case involving a return traveller suspected of catching the virus overseas in Southeast Asia. Officials say the traveller visited several locations, including healthcare facilities, and are urging people who may have been exposed to watch for symptoms, check their vaccination status, and seek medical advice if needed. In other developments, a 55-year-old Brisbane man is due in court after being charged over alleged threatening online messages sent to federal parliamentarians and a high-profile academic. Police say they searched a home in Runcorn and seized electronic devices, and the charge carries a maximum penalty of 3 years in prison. Elsewhere, the IMF says the war in the Middle East is expected to slow growth across Europe and push inflation higher. In its latest outlook, the fund cut growth forecast for the region said euro area GDP could fall by 0.5% over 2 years in a reference case and urged targeted support instead of broad spending packages. Also today, NATO allies and private sector representatives met in Brussels to discuss the impact of Middle East tensions on energy security and the protection of critical subsea infrastructure. The meeting, chaired by NATO's Jean-Charles Elleman-Kingombe, focused on vulnerabilities in energy supplies and ways to strengthen resilience and defence capability. Separately, multilateral development banks say they will work more closely together to help member countries cope with global economic pressure. The banks, including the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank and 9 others, plan joint efforts on private finance, water systems, mineral supply chains, artificial intelligence, and more efficient project procurement. In other news, the International Monetary and Financial Committee says repeated shocks from wars and conflicts are weighing on the global economy and hitting the world's poorest and most vulnerable hardest. It says the response must be timely and adaptable, backed by credible policy frameworks and international cooperation, and that lasting peace is essential for sustainable growth. Turning to another story, a 38-year-old man has been charged after police were called to a report of loitering in a female restroom at a shopping centre in Taree. Police say he was later arrested at a home in Taree and is now on conditional bail ahead of a court appearance next week. And finally, 4 people, including 3 teenagers, have been charged after a police pursuit in Sydney's southwest involving a stolen black SUV. Police say the 14-year-old driver was taken to hospital under guard, while the 3 passengers, including an 18-year-old woman and 2 girls aged 13 and 14, were also charged. That is your evening briefing.